G'day everyone, Prep Aussie here. I hope you're all well. Excuse me, in whatever part of the world you're watching this video. Today is Wednesday, the 6th of January 2020, and the time here is 085 Australian Eastern Standard Time. Well, folks, plenty to go through. I'll do the sponsors and we'll get into it. This is my first sponsor, Mother Hen, who make organic chicken feed. Folks, this stuff is amazing. If you didn't get a chance to ring them last time, this is basically for all the people who are prepping, have chickens. Look, there's plenty of stuff there, livestock, equine, etc. I'm only interested in the poultry, but by all means, call these guys. Look, I can testify. I tried this stuff. They gave me 2 bags to try, and it is quite literally amazing food, folks. It is pure, absolutely pure. They make this stuff themselves. They get it manufactured themselves. There's no fillers, no unnecessary grains. The chickens literally go crazy when you give them this stuff. It's 19 grams of protein. 19. Now, most feeds are like 14 now. They've actually reduced them down. So try finding, you get ones that have got 15. I can't find any that have got 19 at the shops. So look, this stuff is amazing, folks. Give Conrad a call. Here's their number. You can actually email them on their site here. They've actually got a really good site. If you want to call them, give them a call on this number, 0422 305 222. And as I said, I cannot recommend this stuff highly enough. It is just amazing. Something else that is amazing, Totally Rawsome, who make golden activated turmeric paste and other items. If you look across the top, Happy Healing Silica, turmeric paste, turmeric for pets, etc., etc. As you know, I am a absolutely rabid fan of this stuff. It is just fantastic. My dogs take it now. It's the best stuff since sliced bread. Okay, if you want to contact them or if you want to see them, go to the markets as shown on the left. And if you want to contact them, info@totallyrawsome.com.au. Right. So, huge news. Now, you guys probably remember, I drink my coffee while I'm talking to you. I said to you that, this election stuff is not only, it's kind of theatre. It's theatre that's being run by the Chinese Communist Party. And you all need to understand that. In collusion with whoever these state people are, like the swamp people. So this is pretty nefarious stuff, right? And if you don't believe it, then I don't know what else to say to you. Now, something happened last week that you may have missed. Now, remember, I said to you that the Chinese, and I'm going to show you on the map here, the Chinese have been doing these islands up the north of Australia now for the last several years. God knows where the closest one is to Australia. I can't tell you, but I've got a fair idea. So I'm going to show you on a map, and then I'm going to show you what happened literally over Christmas, New Year's, that you may have missed. Well, actually, I'm going to show you that now. So remember I said to you, the Chinese commissioned 10 new warships over Christmas, and they took off and they disappeared into the ocean. No one knows where they are at the moment. They're guessing that they're in the South China Sea. Now, those things could be off the coast of Australia for all we know. For all the government knows, who knows where they are? The second thing is that they now have proof, conclusive proof, which should worry the shit out of all Australians and Americans, that the Chinese have submarines off the coast of Australia. How do I know that? Well, let me show you. Right, this was done on the 5 days ago, 6 days ago, and it was updated 5 days ago. So that's New Year's, folks. This was found, I'll show you where it was found first. This was found around here somewhere. Now, that's Darwin, and that's Townsville. Kansas is up here, just a little bit further north. So you've got Darwin and Cairns. Now, my recollection of the closest island in this part here is around here somewhere, Brunei, just off the coast of Brunei. Now, you don't have to stretch your imagination very far to realise that that's not that far for a missile to go, considering that China can reach the US with a missile, so can North Korea. Now, this drone, right? So let me read this to you a little bit. Images published in local media show Indonesian military officers posing with the unmanned underwater vehicle, or the UUV, which was found just before Christmas near the Selayar Islands in South Sulawesi. Right? Now, I'm going to read this bit here. Malcolm Davis from the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. It does send a signal that the Chinese Navy is getting ready to deploy submarines closer to our maritime approaches north of Darwin. And we need to be ready for the prospect of submarine activity much closer to Australia's northern coast than we have been experiencing in the past. They would need to understand the oceanographic and bathymetric nature of that region, so that's why they're deploying these gliders. Right, so do you understand what they said there? So, you send a sub out. The submarine, this is just basic submarining knowledge, just in case you don't know this. A submarine works on sonar. So they're going through passages. They've obviously got oceanographic maps, but those oceanographic maps aren't available to everyone, especially China, especially around that region, around Australia's region, because the Australian Navy uses it and the American Navy uses it. And it would be open to all Commonwealth countries as well, like, the UK, Canada, if they wanted to come over, etc., etc. So they use designated routes. They don't go off the designated routes because of the reason that, sorry, the camera's up. Because of the fact that if you do, you take the risk of actually running a submarine into a mountain or something under the water. So they use these chosen routes that they've used for years. China doesn't have those routes. They don't know those routes. So what they're doing, it takes a long time, by the way, folks. So they send a sub out and it'll go through very slowly through the areas. Now they drag one of these drones, or they can do it with a ship, a destroyer ship, a fishing vessel, whatever you want. They drag this drone behind it and it just cruises around, and it's got a really long cable at the back of it. And that cable sends out pulses. So it's basically photographing the bottom of the ocean. Do you understand that? So then they can plot which way's the quickest and easiest for them to get to Australia. And also to evade other ships, because other ships might not use the same routes or subs. So you have an out if you're being chased by someone. Then you just go, turn left, gone. The other people can't turn left and go because they don't know that route. It's really basic stuff. So do you remember I said the Chinese are getting ready to invade Australia? This tells you that they're getting ready to invade Australia, or they're going to put submarines off the coast of Australia and bomb the shit out of Australia. The sub just literally pops up, can shoot them. For all we know, they're nuclear missiles. Who knows? And they bomb the shit out of Darwin, Townsville, Cairns, Brisbane, Gold Coast, Melbourne. Who knows? Because all our cities are on the coast. All of them. So you literally have the problem where a submarine can surface anywhere off the coast of Australia, literally have a destroyer chasing it, because a destroyer can float around in international waters. No one can do anything about it. And, you know, unless we know for sure that it's a troop carrying ship and it's got like, you know, 10,000 soldiers on it. Now think about this. They can fit about 5,000 troops thereabouts on a ship if they cram them in. Okay, let's just say 2,000. They can get 2,000 troops on a ship. So if you've got 6 ships and they land pretty quickly in Australia, then you have a fighting force on the Australian shore. They could land, okay, you wouldn't want to do Brisbane because you've got the army bases in Brisbane, but if the submarine took out the army bases, then you could land your troops there in literally hours, and you could take over Brisbane because we have no guns. You could take over Brisbane in a couple of hours. The Chinese know this. My first thought would be that they would attack, they wouldn't attack the East Coast, they'd attack the West Coast and Darwin first. Because just strategically, they need Darwin to get into Australia because it's the closest point to get into Australia. The army obviously knows this. The next one would be, crazy enough, would be Perth, because Perth is isolated and it would take forever for the Australian Defence Forces to go to Perth. Even though there's a Navy base there, etc., they would wipe that out literally in a couple of minutes. And there's an SAS base there. That would literally be wiped out within minutes. And then they just simply bring the troops in, and within hours, it's taken over by the Chinese. Literally within hours. And then you'd have the can you imagine the absolute pandemonium in Perth? Because within minutes, people would be getting on the freeway trying to get out of Perth, or any road out of Perth. So it would just be pandemonium. And once again, Chinese land there, got no guns. Some people have guns, but who's going to go and shoot them? You would only need, the Chinese know this, you'd only need a minimum of 5,000 troops, maybe less, to take over an Australian city, because we have no guns. If they attack an Australian city, you know, there's bases in all the Australian cities. And here's the other thing to remember. If they attack an Australian city, for example, as I said, Perth, you know, that's like Los Angeles to New York from where the nearest base is in Australia. So you got Perth on one side of the country, Townsville up the other, or Brisbane, Sydney, they're all on the other side. You know how long it's going to take to get troops there? You couldn't fly them there because they'd get blown out of the sky by the Chinese Navy. So yeah, do you understand how easy it would be for the Chinese to invade Australia? Literally within hours, any Australian city you want to think of. With 5,000 troops, they take control literally within hours. Now, the Australian military know this. So, you know, for me to show you something like this, and for this guy here, whoever this is, Malcolm Davis, I've never heard of him, but for him to say, it does send a signal that the Chinese Navy is getting ready to deploy submarines closer to our maritime approaches north of Darwin. Should worry every single Australian and tells you that I was right. And I've been right all along. The goal of the Chinese is to, as soon as this American election, which is tomorrow, as soon as this falls into a massive shit fight, and the aim of the Chinese here is for America to start infighting within itself. They want a revolution. It's as simple as that. They want them to start fighting each other. Once they're fighting each other, they obviously can't fight anywhere else. Once they start fighting anywhere else, and don't even think for 1 second that there isn't Americans in the political system who aren't signed up to this. That's the really scary part here. Don't think for 1 second there is not American politicians who are not signed up to this. They know all about this because they're communists. They're Marxist communists. That in itself is pretty scary. So look, this is going to go pear-shaped tomorrow. I've told you before, there's no way that it cannot go pear-shaped. And I wouldn't mind betting that the Democrats, if Mike Pence does as I suspect, and just literally turns over the votes, then the Democrats are literally going to walk out of that Congress and say, ladies and gentlemen, we are at war. Literally. Now, what happens after that? Because in reality, the vote is inconsequential. It doesn't really matter. What happens after that is consequential. Now, don't think for a second that these nut job communist Marxists haven't got people waiting everywhere in Washington, New York. They're literally going to go apeshit. So, like San Francisco, Los Angeles, etc. So what happens when they go apeshit? What is the president left with? Martial law. Brought on by the fact that these people have gone apeshit. So he has to call in martial law. They have to, you will be shot if you're in the street. They're going to say, get Nick. No, you're not. We're not going to do that. You're not going to shoot us. And they are going to shoot him. Then that's when the shit's really going to hit the fan. Because then you're going to have people even on the Republican side saying, well, holy shit, we're shooting our citizens. Regardless of whatever it is they've done. And then you're going to have more people turn over to the Marxist communists. That's their whole plan. Get people shot in the street. Start shooting people in the street. The government that's running the country is shooting the people in the street. Oh, they must be dictators. You get it? So there is no win here, folks. There is no win-win for anybody. I'm expecting things to get so bad that Trump has to ask the militia to step in. And once the militia steps in, then it's all over. There is a rebellion. There is a revolution type of thing. So look, this is the way this is all going to go, in my opinion. I don't know where Australia's placed. I don't really, it's clearly obvious to me that we have the same factions in the Australian government, and that might surprise some of you, but we have. I would suspect that the Australian government is sitting there literally shatting itself at the moment based on information, security information that they're not sharing with us, which is i.e. the fact that, you know, these bases up the north of us, these Chinese bases now have cruise missiles that can hit whichever city in Australia they want to hit, mainly Darwin. Now, remember, I said that the Americans would send a shitload more American troops. Now, that may happen still. Trump may, if he wins, one of his first things to do may be to send 10,000 troops to Australia. Although the timeline for that is running very short. Now, remember, whichever city he puts them in is going to become an automatic target for the Chinese, unfortunately. You know, demographically, Australia is in a no-win situation because we've literally got no defences for anything the Chinese want to do. And you're kidding yourself if you think we have. We have not. There's more Chinese troops in one unit of the Australian army, the Chinese army, than there is in the whole of the Australian army. Think about that. You know, we have no defences against the Chinese, none. And you can forget about New Zealand coming to us because, you know, the China's probably going to do the same to them. Who else is there that's going to get here in time? South Africans? Indonesians? They're not going to help us at all. So, you know, look, this is going pear-shaped very quickly. And it's happening exactly as I told you it would. My recommendation to any Australians out there who want to take my advice is, if this does happen, if or when it does happen, because look, we are going to get invaded. There's no two ways about that. When that happens, I'm not too sure, but I don't think we get out of January without some major inflection point. As I said, they'll attack Taiwan first because that's always been their major #1 goal. They have to prove to the Chinese people that, yay, we're Chinese and we're communist, and, you know, we took back pissy little Taiwan because we wanted to, because it's ours. And then once they've beefed up the rhetoric, they're going to go, well, now we're going to take over Australia, yay, and we're going to send all you people there to farm. You're going to have great lives in Australia, yay. So, look, my advice, and it's not being a chicken, a coward, or anything like that. This is the art of war. Get the hell out of the city, out of the cities, if they come anywhere. If they attack Darwin, get in your car, drive west to the mountains, country New South Wales. That's my advice. If you're in Western Australia, drive east. Try to get to, I don't know, I actually can't tell you where to go to if you're in Western Australia. You're in a real shit fight, honestly. In my mind, I can only see this being a 10-year conflict if Chinese troops invade Australia. And the reason is because we cannot repel an occupying force in Australia. They will literally take out our defences within the first hours. Now remember, even if they attack Brisbane, for example, and we have the base in Townsville in Sydney, just so you Americans know this, Sydney is 8 hours away from Brisbane. So that's a full 2 days before, you know, unless a miracle happens and the Australian Defence Force is actually ready, that's a full 2 days to get to Brisbane with the troops. 1 day to get everything ready, even half ready. That means ammo, etc., guns, trucks, and they've got to fly up. I don't mean fly, I mean drive up the east coast of Australia to Brisbane, which is an 8 to 10 hour drive from Sydney. Then if you're in Townsville, which is the big Australian base, right, big army base in Townsville, which if it hasn't been wiped out, then by the Chinese by a sub, then those guys have to drive, it's nearly 24 hours to Brisbane, a 24-hour drive. So that's 3 days before any of them get to Brisbane. So I'm using that as an analogy. So can you imagine what would happen if the Chinese invade Perth? Now, don't kid yourself that the Chinese don't know this, by the way. They already know this. They know they can take over Perth, have literally 30,000 troops there within 3 days. 3 days. 30,000 troops. We don't even have that many troops, folks. We may have, but that'd be a stretch. We probably don't even have that many guns in Australia. I'm being facetious here, obviously, but you know what I mean. So what would you do if you were the Chinese? You would invade Townsville, which is 24 hours from Brisbane and nearly 35 something hours from Sydney. Darwin, don't forget Darwin. You can't even drive to Darwin from Brisbane on a proper road. Perth. Now don't forget Broome up north, which is in the middle of nowhere. And, you know, honestly, folks, when this is all said and done, we are actually going to have to line up these gutless politicians who over the last 50 years have put us in this situation. So ever since the Vietnam War, you know, our massive de-escalation of the Australian armies, navies, etc. And don't listen to their rhetoric about, oh, we built this and we built that. They haven't built shit all, folks. It's laughable. It's absolutely laughable. So my big question is, so that's what I'm going to title this today. So here we are. So my big thing to you is prep Australia, prep Aussie, prepare Australia. That's what this has always been about. Prepare Australia. And you need to know what's coming, and you need to really focus, folks, because this is not going away. That drone tells you that. I hope I get the message across. As regards to the American thing, look, I've already said my piece on that. I can't see it going any other way. Honestly, I cannot. Righto, let's do the prayers. Okay, here's the verse of the day. Wash yourselves, make yourselves clean. Put away the evil of your doings from before my eyes. Cease to do evil, learn to do good, seek justice, rebuke the oppressor, defend the fatherless, plead for the widow. Wow, what a great verse after what I just read. And as always, folks, we'll finish with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Righto, folks, I'll leave it there. I honestly hope that you guys in America are really, really focused, you know, and you hold the line, because we need you to. The world's depending on America at the moment. It's always been depending on America, but it's pretty bad at the moment. No pressure, guys. All right. God bless. Prep out.